Now, like the hype train just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling for the next Spider-Man. But now we've got some more interesting information because Tom Holland has graduated from not spoiling anything, but it seems Alfred Molina is a little out of practice, so to speak. The former Doc Ock and soon-to-be Doc Ock again had some rather interesting statements to make in regard to his role in the upcoming Spider-Man No Way Home. There's a lot to break down, so this is going to be a longer segment, but basically Alfred Molina, one, confirmed that he was back. It seemed unlikely because Deadline and Hollywood Reporter and all those major outlets were saying that he was back, but now, straight from the horse's mouth, Alfred Molina will be back as Doc Ock in Spider-Man No Way Home. But it doesn't stop there. He said that they'll be using de-aging technology like they did with Robert Downey Jr. for Civil War and Michael Douglas?
Yep.
Right? I always get Michael and Kurt mixed up. Like they were doing with Ant-Man. And they're going to digitally de-age him to look like he was in 2004 Spider-Man 2. And that they'll pick up, at least when they were going with the script, they said they're going to bring him back right as he was falling to his death. So there's a lot of weird implications there. And we'll talk about the Happy Hogan thing later because you and I had a breakthrough that I don't think our audience is ready for.
I don't think we're ready for it.
Because I told Heather, and as soon as the words left my mouth, she just goes, "No, we cannot have that." Like she was more upset than you. But well, for right now, we'll stick with the Doc Ock thing. Doc Ock picking up immediately when he dies in Spider-Man 2 sounds like a really odd choice. Josh, what do you think about what Alfred Molina has said? Just all of what he's been saying.
I need this movie to come out so that we can stop playing around with ideas and stuff. Just because nothing that has come out, the more and more information that comes, the less and less excited I am.
It feels like there's a lot of red herrings for this.
Yeah, because to me, if that's what you're saying, in my mind, if this is a Spider-Verse movie, I don't think he's dying. I think he gets teleported into another dimension for some stupid reason.
Maybe, okay. In which case, there's a way to do that, not hard, of the sun thing from Spider-Man 2. Maybe falling into that is a portal to another dimension. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't be too difficult to pull off, I don't think. But
I don't think so either.
Here's where it gets super weird and confusing to me. This is Alfred Molina saying that he'll be playing the exact same Doc Ock that he did in Spider-Man 2. But on the flip side, when it was announced that Jamie Foxx would be in this movie, he immediately took to Instagram saying, "I'm back, and I won't be blue this time," before Disney got a hold of him and he quickly deleted that post. Well, if he's not blue this time, that kind of implies that he's playing a different version of Electro.
Yeah.
So who gets to stay their universe selves and who becomes an alternate universe? I feel like with this Spider-Man movie, there's a lot of purpose misinformation going around just to keep secrets, basically, which could be both good or bad. Now, also, I didn't want to make this a full new topic because I questioned the validity of the sources, but it would be interesting to note that supposedly this is the first Spider-Man movie that won't have Avi Arad as producer, which would be a big deal because he's been producing ever since the original Spider-Man trilogy, and fans, a lot of the complaints that you've had about Spider-Man dating back to the Tobey Maguire era, Avi Arad has had some form of a hand in. You didn't like Venom in Spider-Man 3? Blame Arad on that. You didn't like how many villains were in Amazing Spider-Man 2? Blame Arad on that. You don't like how much they rely on Tony Stark for Spider-Man now? blame Avi Arad on that. Again, I don't know if I believe that or not, because it was just a thread on Twitter from an undisclosed source that I don't know if I trust that or not. But it would make a lot of sense, because so far the MCU has been incredibly loyal and faithful to their characters like Iron Man, Captain America, and Spider-Man. It just has felt a little off. I still enjoy the movies, Homecoming significantly more than Far From Home, but it does feel like the movies at times are trying to always serve two masters. And I've thought ever since they announced John Watts is directing Fantastic Four that maybe he was doing the best that he could with Spider-Man with the limitations that people above him were putting on. And so Kevin Feige saw that and was like, I want to reward you with something that you can actually have creative freedom with.
Yeah.
Because there's been some interesting things that have come out about Homecoming of what was supposed to be in the movie versus what was cut. Again, I don't know if I believe the validity of that at times. But if we are now moving past Avi Arad as producer, I think the best days of Spider-Man are ahead if he can just stay in the MCU. If that's the case. Again, I don't know if that's true. This Doc Ock thing.
Yeah. And like, you're right though, because like there's so much we don't know. Like, where does Tom Holland's playing Peter Parker stand? Is he staying in Marvel? Is he going back to Sony? Like, what's the case here? So I think, and it's not even, I think this kind of ties into our 2-week discussion about movie marketing in a way of like, I'm not saying people won't see this movie because of all of the weird Tom Holland question, like in where he stands playing Spider-Man questions. Like, people are going to see this regardless, right? But at the same time, like, it has the potential to leave a sour taste in people's mouths.
Yeah, for sure. So again, I don't know where I stand with this Doc Ock thing. I'm hesitant, but I'm still excited because Alfred Molina is a phenomenal actor. Doc Ock is not just one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. He's one of my favorite villains, period. I've loved Doc Ock ever since I was reading the comics, seeing Spider-Man 2. But I'm a little curious about this. Now, the other big thing that I think a lot of people are skipping over just because either they assumed it or they're so distracted by the Doc Ock thing that this is not being reported as much. But it seems Jon Favreau will be returning for Spider-Man No Way Home as Happy Hogan again, which, yay, he's everyone's favorite. Now it's time to get sad, because my brain can never turn off and let me enjoy, and my brain just will never let me enjoy things, and it's a curse. But follow this dangerous train of thought that I have. Happy Hogan returning. Cool. What else is Jon Favreau involved with?
Yeah.
Star Wars. And there's been heavy speculation for quite a few years that he may be replacing Kathleen Kennedy as the next head of Lucasfilm, which would be a great idea, especially him and Dave Filoni working together. Why do I bring that up? Well, Tom Holland has gone on record. He hasn't said who, but he has said, because he likes to talk and never shut his mouth, he has said that he had to rehearse really sad and intense scenes and had to learn to be able to cry on camera. To which I'm going, that sounds a lot like a character death. And now, before you scream into the void, because you're following my train of thought, I wouldn't be surprised if Happy Hogan dies in this Spider-Man. But the more I think about it, the more it logically makes sense. And here's why. 1, Happy Hogan, as a character, has been in the MCU since day 1. If I remember correctly, he's in like the second scene of Iron Man. He's almost there. Yeah. He's been in the MCU almost as long as Robert Downey Jr., only missing out by like a scene or two. I think Happy's one of the most criminally underrated characters in all the MCU. Everyone loves him because he's so great. He even made his scenes in Iron Man 3 fantastic, and I don't even like Iron Man 3. He's been there forever. People have this bond with him. Peter has this bond with him via Tony Stark. You lose Tony. If you lose Happy, you've really lost all your connections to Stark. Now, especially with him being um, romantically involved with Aunt May.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the right word for it. Romantically involved with Aunt May. A lot of people made fun of it at first. You're just like, this is kind of weird. But it kind of made sense, and they evolved it in Far From Home. What if... I'm not saying we will never get an Uncle Ben, but what if they're going to do a different type of Uncle Ben? A different uncle that pays the price. And since you were the one that suggested it, I'll let you be the one that says it. What do we think Uncle Hogan's legacy would be?
Yeah, because it only makes sense. I mean, if you tie it in for Far From Home, when he's like, he looks like a proud papa when Peter like is back there tinkering.
Metallica.
Yeah, like, oh, bro, he just looks like a proud papa when he makes his own suit. Like, I mean, I have my own issues with that whole scene, but regardless, like, Happy is the Uncle Ben for him here, and I think with him dying and the words, and just because, again, we're talking about the guy that, you know, watched Stark go from super big corporate douchebag to, like, one of the biggest, the guy that sacrificed himself for, I said something that triggered something.
Yes, you did.
For Nathan.
You said,
buddy? You
said because he has watched Tony Stark. If Tony Stark had all this great power, he has seen firsthand what you need to do with great power, and if you are not responsible with that power. I have wanted for a while Uncle Ben to be in the MCU because Uncle Ben is the reason why he's Spider-Man. But maybe Marvel's thinking of it of, we've got enough Uncle Ben deaths. We don't need a Martha situation here.
Yeah.
But
exactly, no, so that's the point, right? Because Happy's been there. He knows how important it is to use your power responsibly. And like, for the line, with great power comes great responsibility, coming from him, and I think anytime you have Uncle Ben in the movie, he's given to us, like, you got to build him up as this great guy, and you
only
have
to die.
Us audience members have to fall in love with him, knowing he's about to die in 15 minutes or whatever. So, I mean, that's difficult. But then if you have a character that's been around since the beginning of the MCU, seeing Tony have his shortcomings and not use his power responsibly all the time, and, you know, a lot of the issues that the Avengers face are his fault. But whatever. But maybe they play into that. Like, look, kid, like, you are entirely capable of being the quote-unquote next Tony Stark, but, like, in a way that Tony could never be. So with great power comes great responsibility. It has to come through from him on, like, as he passes away.
But, like, when we were texting about it, I didn't even think of the ramifications of Happy has seen Tony firsthand with this great power and this great brain that he has use it irresponsibly. So, oh, dude, I don't want Happy to die. Happy's the best. But if you make it mean something, it could be one of the most impactful deaths, and that could be what Tom Holland is practicing for with these really emotional scenes. I think a lot of people had it pegged of maybe Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man would die. I think for the sake of the MCU, I think Happy might be a prime target, especially with him taking on more non-acting responsibilities. It's a character that's been there forever. He's emotionally attached to both Peter and Aunt May. Again, this is just us spitballing. And we were hoping for stuff in Amazing Spider-Man 2 with the webbing. This probably won't come to pass. But I'm not willing to rule this out yet.
Yeah, it's too, to me, like, that's a character defining moment. Whereas, like, the webbing thing in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which, if for y'all that don't know, Nathan and I have said that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man should have proposed using his webbing on the bridge, and then when she dies, the webbing just disappears because it only, like, lasts.
Symbolism.
Yeah, anyway, but
Dust in the wind.
that's more like to make that emotionally hit harder. this is like a character defining moment for Tom. Like this almost in some ways, some way, shape, or form has to happen. You know what I mean? Like it's we haven't had that moment yet, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of put a little bit of like a boot. You know, like those boots they put on cars that have
Yeah.
been yeah. It's almost like holding him back that we haven't had this moment yet, and it's only because like he had that moment of like holding everything up and was like, I have to, like I'm just a kid at the end of the day, but I'm Spider-Man and have all this stuff. Like it would come full circle and maybe finally give him the opportunity to be the Spider-Man that we know.